The public sector managers that we speak to take it for granted that they can reduce their costs by 20% without any damage to services, in fact with improved services, and that is a common result from the NHS to crime to fire services, you name it. I think 20% should be the rule of thumb.
The big issues that underlies the next few years is simply this: are we going to genuinely see more power decentralised to the local level? If power is decentralised, we will see greater innovation and greater joining up at the local level. The problem is that as the public spending squeeze hits and local agencies face tough decisions, there will come to be greater and greater pressure on central government to try to defend service standards. If we see a centralisation of decision making in the context of austerity, then I think we face a very difficult, pretty grim few years. If on the other hand, we use it as an opportunity to decentralise and to urge agencies to work more effectively together and to build better relationships with citizens, then despite the fact that we face austerity over the next few years, I think this could also be a period of genuine innovation and creativity in the public sector.
At the moment, managers in some cases aren't making these cuts because of politics, and they are getting confused messages from politics. In some cases, for example, the Conservative Party is saying that it will always protect the NHS budget. I mean, that is actually a signal to NHS managers to back off change rather than get into it. And I think it's a common finding across the public sector that good public sector managers know how to do it, want to do it, but are not being given a political lead or face actual political opposition. And that will be one of the key tasks of the next government, to communicate that change in culture that's needed in the public sector.
The problem with the current conversation that's taking place around public services is that we're not seeing a genuinely strategic approach. So we're hearing that deep cuts have to be made, and then we hear politicians say that they're going to save this service and save that service, and the kinds of cuts they do identify are piffling. What the public is not hearing is a medium-term account of how it is we should restructure public spending in the best interests of the country. I think what the public needs to hear, if the public is going to agree to difficult choices, is they need to hear that the decisions about public spending are being made in a genuine strategic framework, rather than simply as a response to the latest focus group.
I think the importance for public services going forward will be to focus not only on process but also in outcomes. And in the health service, arguably, we've seen a preoccupation in targets which have been process driven as opposed to real health outcomes and health improvements. And I think that will be true across public services. And in making those difficult decisions, using mechanisms like the NHS Constitution will be extremely important. For instance, the right for individuals to understand the rationale behind how decisions are made and where they're made will be incredibly important in the future.
So we know the public are unrealistic about the kinds of choices they face now. For example, Ben Page, who does more polling on the public sector than anybody else, argues that the British public want Swedish welfare on American tax rates. So if local agencies are going to make brave decisions, they're going to have to find new forms of engagement with the public, whether it's citizens' juries or online polls or decentralisation to neighbourhoods. Because unless they can get local people to understand those kinds of choices and buy into those choices, then again they face an increasingly hostile and angry public.
Personalisation depends on two things. It depends on experienced staff who know what they're doing and can vary what they're doing to suit the consumer, and then it needs informed consumers who are able to explain why they're different and what they want. So I think at the moment there are lots of experienced staff in public services, but there's a deficit on the level of information amongst consumers, so that's what would have to improve to get greater personalisation.
The note of caution I would add about the personalisation and choice agenda is that they are two different things. It's perfectly possible to personalise a service for an individual without necessarily giving them choice. If we're talking personalisation, let's mean personalisation, but don't confuse the two.